you're tuned in to Focus on Government and Development. We're broadcasting live from DBS Radio on Victoria Street, Roseau. We're also live on Cairo FM and various other media. We've been off for a bit, but we're back to talk matters of governance, the issues that are relevant to you, to keep you up to date with how your government is functioning, the implementation of plans and policies to make your lives better. That's our focus on government and development, to keep you informed. My name is Dion Dura-Smith, and tonight my guests are Mrs. Nathalie Walsh. This is the relatively still new Festival and Events Director Manager at Discover Dominica Authority. She's joined by her colleague Kimberly King. Kimberly is the Destination Marketing Manager at Discover Dominica Authority. Tonight we'll be talking festival and events, marketing of the destination, and tourism matters in general. At some point in the program, you will be invited to call in. Maybe you have some questions or some recommendations on how we can improve our festivals or events. Actually, I quite know that many of you do have some recommendations on enhancing our festivals and events in Dominica, so we would love to hear from you later in the program. But now I'd like to introduce my guests, Mrs. Nathalie Walsh and Miss Kimberly King. Ladies, welcome to the program. Nathalie, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Dion. Thank you very much. And good evening to all our listeners and our viewers.
Kimberly, how are you? Welcome to Focus on Government and Development.
Thanks so much, Dion. Thank you for inviting us. It's a pleasure to be here. And of course, for those listening and viewing, it's great to be here. Thank you.
All right. So, Nathalie, I'd like to start with you as the new Festival and Events Manager. I think you've been in the position for just about 2 months. How has that been for you at the helm of Dominica's festivals and events?
Dion, amazing. I must say it's a lot of hard work. When I started off in March, I had to dive right into, supporting the Yachting Festival, which was early March into April. And the past 2 months as Festivals and Events Manager of DFC have been extremely busy. Mm-hmm. As I said, I started with the Yachting Festival, then we went right into the Jazz and Creole Music Festival. But also it has been very, very rewarding as well. We have a great team at DFC. And I also get, a lot of support from our CEO, Mr. Colin Piper, and the Ministry of Tourism. Mm-hmm. Our goal is to take Dominica's entertainment industry to a whole new level. So I'm excited, very, very excited, because we have a lot of different, events on the calendar for this year. And I'm just looking forward to hosting, many more here in Dominica.
Our people are quite invested in the success of our festivals, our major festivals. And you coming into the new position, I'm sure they were curious about the new lady in charge and what she brings to the table. So can you talk to us a little bit about your goals for the management of our country's festivals? What are you hoping to do differently? What can we expect from you?
Well, Dion, whilst festivals are an expressive way to celebrate, the heritage, our culture and traditions, we strive to make Dominica's festival, firstly, a world-class festival. There are many different areas we need to, improve on so that can be a world-class festival. But just look at Jazz and Creole, festival. The feedback thus far is really, good. We're getting very, very positive feedback from Jazz and Creole Festival. And we are just looking at, planning for World Creole Music Festival. And we have started, speaking to a number of stakeholders in the industry. We have already started looking at the artists, for World Creole Music Festival in terms of what is required to make it, a world-class festival and to give, patrons a very good experience, not just the locals, but, persons coming from, the region, persons coming, from the USA, the UK. We really want to give them a first-class experience when they land, on our destination, so that they can enjoy, our festivals here in Dominica.
Later on in the program, I'm sure all listeners would like to hear exactly what you mean when you talk about first-class experience. I'm curious myself. But Kimberly, let's talk to you for a bit. Before we get into a deeper discussion about festivals and the tourism product, can you give our listeners an idea of who you are and the role you play at the Discover Dominica Authority?
Certainly, Dion. I've been here for just about a year and a half. I'm the Destination Marketing Manager. I am responsible for formulating the marketing strategy for Dominica, implementing that strategy, and really evaluating the results of those different marketing campaigns while working with different source market representatives. We have source market representatives in the US, the UK, France, French West Indies, also looking at the Caribbean. So that's it basically in a nutshell.
Yes. So ladies, we're just coming out of the Jazz Festival hosted over the weekend, and from all reports it seems to have been a resounding success. But we have both of you here with us, so I'd like to hear from each of you. What were your general impressions of the event and how you think it went? Nathalie.
Generally, Dion, I believe that based on stats as well, looking at the numbers earlier today, the World Jazz and Creole, was a success. I'm ready for World Creole Music Festival. So Jazz and Creole was a real success. We had over 2,000 patrons, attending Jazz this year. As you know, last year we had a challenge because we just came from, COVID, and the event was not as big as we really wanted it to be, in the previous year. But this year, many Dominicans, many persons from the French West Indies and, across the OECS came to Jazz and Creole this year. We had various components to the event, where we had the kids zone, we had a chill zone, we also had a segment to highlight, the fashion. We also had the Boutique Dominique, where we had over 5 to 6 vendors showcasing, their local craft upstairs in the building at Cabarets. We had a number of international artists as well as our local artists, Swinging Stars and Signal Band, and persons really looked forward to seeing the performance of the local bands as well. Felicia Ross, her performance was very, very good. Even today, just walking the streets, you could hear, persons commenting that we should bring back Felicia Ross, to Dominica for World Creole Music Festival. Overall, in terms of the shuttle service, this year we tried to improve on the shuttle service, where we had a number of shuttle, service drivers within the community of Portsmouth and surroundings, Picard, Borough Square, the market in Portsmouth, persons could actually get a shuttle at various points. The police actually worked very, very closely with us to ensure that, traffic was managed properly, at Portsmouth. Commuting of, persons just going to Jazz and Creole, was also managed. We had parking at the Moroccan Hotel grounds, as well as parking along the Cabarets, area. And then we also had VIP parking and, parking for dignitaries up at the main event. But what is very important as well is the fact that we had shuttle service from the grounds at Cabarets near the ticket booth all the way up to the main stage event, and that was also inclusive of the price of the tickets, where persons did not have to pay extra for that shuttle service from Cabarets to the main grounds. So all in all, I mean, the feedback, the reviews that we are getting from patrons, it is very, very encouraging.
Kimberly, I heard everything Nathalie said, and it really does sound like the DDA-DFC has put in place a very well-oiled machine to execute the Jazz and Creole Festival. But I don't like us to shy away from some of the concerns we hear about the public. So, for example, she mentions that there were 2,000 patrons, which is quite a crowd. She also spoke about the parking and the shuttle service. Do you think that the venue still works very well for the event, and are you looking at how you can probably address some of the concerns that I've seen on social media about parking and that kind of thing?
I think you've raised a valid point in terms of the concerns. But to start off with, congrats to Nathalie. Working with her for the first time to execute this event, and we really wanted to bring home that theme message of welcome to Portsmouth, the home of jazz and Creole. And I think we really sold and hit that target from a marketing standpoint. As she said, in terms of the feel, in terms of the ambience, I think the vibe was just right. Just walking around. It was a little hot, but
very hot.
we could not have dealt with that too much. But in terms of the musical repertoire, excellent, understanding the fusion of jazz and Creole music. For example, Black Violin, I think they were amazing, and one of the guys he's from Dominica, so that's excellent in terms of looking at sustainability. Looking at the pain points and how we can improve, yes, one of the VIP persons did mention with regards to parking. And you're right in terms of looking at the venue. Now, the venue is amazing. It's one of our attractions here in Dominica, and we love hosting the event there. But I feel as if on Sunday I felt, because of the excellent work that was done, it has grown. And one of the important things we need to understand in event planning, marketing, just from a tourism perspective, is understanding when we have reached that max so it does not impact negatively on the overall experience of the person attending the event. And I think that needs to be considered. You're so right there.
Yes, and I'm very happy that you acknowledge that the overall experience of the patrons, we always have to keep considering and keep upping the experience. But I want to go back a little bit and talk about what you two believe to be the general objectives of the Jazz and Creole Festival, because I'm sure it's not only conceptualized as a mere fete, and especially with this last event. Are you satisfied that these objectives are being met?
Well, Dion, for Jazz and Creole, we did a lot of promotions locally within the market. We also tried to pull, persons from, especially the French islands, Guadeloupe and Martinique. And I believe from, observations, we do not have the final report just yet, but we saw a lot of French people that came in for Jazz and Creole, as well as persons from the OACS, as stated earlier. Outside of, it being just, an event persons can, attend. You're very right that it is not only a fete, it is an opportunity for us to also focus on the destination, to bring visitors, to Dominica, to get to know, the various sites here in Dominica. Jazz and Creole is also a pull factor to, really help us to promote, our destination, the Nature Isle Dominica. And also it's an opportunity to give, small to medium enterprises, an opportunity to really sell their products and services, to not just foreigners, but to locals. Because you have Dominicans who live in the south and barely go to the north. Yeah. So this weekend was also an opportunity to invite all Dominicans to Portsmouth. As Kimberly said, we really use that, headline, welcome to Portsmouth, welcome to the second town of Dominica. And we, during the weeks leading up to Jazz and Creole, we really emphasized the point that we really wanted persons to come to Portsmouth, not just for the one day for Jazz and Creole, but to come to Portsmouth for a number of days leading up to the event, because we had quite a few fringe events as well, including events at Purple Turtle, at Bell Hall Beach, at Rosalie Bay. So we were actually inviting, persons to come and be part of, the many events that, we had planned for Jazz and Creole this year. And it was quite a bit of events on the calendar. And many, many, many persons came to Portsmouth, so much so that accommodation was a bit of a challenge, to closer to the event. But we are very pleased with the turnout and the participation in the fringe events, as well as the main stage event on Sunday, April 30th.
Kimberly, this discussion sounds right up your alley in terms of using the event, Jazz and Creole, to continue to market the destination.
Yeah, and just to add to those salient points that Nathalie would have shared, in terms of the objectives that we really look at is how to increase visitor arrivals while really showcasing the unique culture of Dominica, how to increase awareness, how to really position Dominica as a formidable not only destination but the event and culture capital within the region. So in terms of arrivals and looking at that, for example, from a marketing perspective, because we want to help DFC and our events and festivals team in really driving those numbers, bringing those numbers in, getting the word out, it meant looking strategically at the data that we had from years gone by. For example, 2022, where are those source markets? Where are the persons who really want to come and enjoy Jazz and Creole? We know locally persons want to attend. We know also that the French West Indies market, we saw also the US market last year was pretty strong, more than likely because of the direct flights. And that fits in overall with regards to marketing, because we want to be able to get to that target in 2025. And events and festivals is going to help us get there, because we also know that out here it's a serious what's the word? I wouldn't say rat race, but it's very, very competitive now. Every island is answering their game with regards to their marketing and getting persons to come after COVID. So we need to be consistent. We need to be strategic. We need to understand that festivals and events is a key pillar strategy for getting persons here to Dominica.
Right. Earlier, Nathalie mentioned the economic opportunities for Portsmouth, the opportunities for accommodation, fringe events, food, etc. Has the DDA already started to consider how it can help the Portsmouth community to take better advantage of these opportunities going forward?
Okay, let me just address this, Dion. When we started planning Jazz and Creole, festival April 30th, we met with a number of key stakeholders in Portsmouth. Not only the drivers, to approach, to discuss the shuttle service opportunity, but we also collaborated with the mayor of Portsmouth, and we met with a number of the persons in the food and beverage, industry. We tried our best to really encourage, the small businesses in Portsmouth to stay open and to stay open early, and we, in terms of customer service, to really give that, excellent customer service to persons, within Portsmouth and environs during the Jazz and Creole Festival. So we realized that when persons go to Jazz and Creole Festival, after the events, they also go out within the communities and they look, for food, for drinks. They look for a party. They look to rave, and it is very, very important, for the small businesses to be mindful of that and to plan early as well and to be prepared. Because even for me, after the event, I actually went into the community, and it was difficult for me to get, dinner late. So I just want to use this opportunity to, really appeal to the businesses in Portsmouth. The Jazz and Creole Festival is an opportunity for them to, make some real, income, because you have times when business is very, very slow, in Portsmouth. And this is an opportunity for them to really take full advantage of it. And what we notice is that persons are still sort of laid back. And we really need the small businesses in Portsmouth to be a bit more aggressive and to be ready, for patrons, be ready for, persons going to Portsmouth during such, big events to serve them with, their products and their services throughout, not just during the day. You can't shut down early. You really need to stay open as late as possible, to cater to the public.
Yeah, but I really hope that the objective or the thought process going forward is that there's continued engagement and collaboration so that these things can happen. Kimberly, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you said it well. Because of the fact that community tourism is really helping to drive at a macro level, tourism. Persons are not only coming because, let's say, they're coming for wellness. They're going to be going to the Wharton Wavon. They're going to go into the Roseau Valley. So these are communities. So we need to really empower those communities. And that cannot be done, let's say, by a DDA or DFC alone. Obviously, our line ministry, we're going to work in part with them, and also the line ministry has to work with the communities to ensure that there's really more of a participatory approach with regards to planning these sorts of events and also getting them prepared, because let's say, for example, the morning after, persons were saying we were not able to get breakfast. Persons were saying, as Nathalie said, with regards to going out late and not being able to access food, etc. So it means really having an understanding of what tourism can do for the communities in terms of understanding from small, medium enterprise, what we need to do in terms of customer service and getting things up to that mark. And Nathalie said she will speak more with regards to quality service or first-class service. That's important. As we said that, I actually mentioned Kingston, and their new approach where they're looking at Old Kingston, New Kingston, Uptown, Downtown, where, for example, Bob Marley and Trenchtown, where they're actually allowing these small businesses to open up hostels. Persons are coming now to Kingston versus just running off to the north part of the island, because they get the opportunity to go there and learn about, the dance of Jamaica. Different to Dominica, but what I'm trying to say is that when persons come into this community, they get to learn more about the community and do activities there. So it's important to include them.
Brilliant. Okay. So, Kimberly, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that the Tourism Authority has, in fact, designated a new pillar as part of Dominica's tourism product, festival and events. As the destination marketing manager, how do you and your team plan, or rather, how are you incorporating this into your overall marketing strategy of the destination?
Well, we've realized that coming out of COVID, a lot of persons want a very authentic experience. And as I mentioned before, it's quite competitive now. Every destination, every Caribbean island is anting their game. And the only way to really differentiate yourself is by your culture. Dominica's culture is absolutely amazing. That Creole influence, last year for the first time I was able to experience all of October independence celebrations, World Creole Music Festival. And it's really amazing to stand by and look at persons' dress, look at the food, listen to the music. And that's something that we need to really sell, because it makes Dominica different. And that has to be included in any spiel. It's a pillar strategy, yes, but it has to be included in any talking points, whether it be at a trade show, whether it is we speaking to persons of why they should come to Dominica. The Kalinago community also is something that is pretty up there as that makes Dominica very distinct. And persons love hearing about this. They love hearing about the festivals. They love seeing the dress. They love seeing the food. For example, there were some visitors on Sunday who stopped and said they were looking at the cocktail menu and they were telling me, what's the Kalinago cocktail? Hats off to FFI actually for an amazing branded experience, I must say. And persons were saying, what is Kalinago? Stopping and asked me, and I was explaining. And it's that's what we want to see. You need to be able to put culture as part of your overall marketing plan, because that helps you make the island or the destination very distinct.
Nathalie, I'm just curious. I've heard you speak before in the past 2 months about the experience, creating the experience at every festival. When you talk about that experience, is that what you're talking about, incorporating aspects of our culture and the uniqueness of our heritage into what we present to our patrons?
Dion, certainly, that is very important. At every event, this is an opportunity to promote Dominica, to promote what is unique to Dominica. If you look at Carnival, on the streets of Carnival, what is unique to Dominica is the sensei, the Black Devil costumes, and so many other, groups. So it's not only during Carnival, you highlight the different, aspects, of Carnival. It's not only during Carnival you highlight the costumes, but we have many other events, and we should use the opportunity to promote, the uniqueness of our country, Dominica. We use our food as well, at events, because even jazz and Creole, it is not just jazz music, but it's our culture. We had a fashion, segment, as I said earlier on. It's about the food, the type of food you actually have at the events. So it's really an opportunity to promote all what is, Dominica to the foreigners that come here, for the various events here in Dominica. So we just want to encourage, persons as much as possible whenever, companies participate, in the various events, signature events, is not only to showcase their brand, but it's to incorporate, what is ours, the local, aspect of Dominica into, what they do in terms of their business. So implementation is very, very important in terms of how you activate, your sponsorship, how you activate the event. And we try our best to do some of that at every single, event. Yeah. So when you look at jazz and Creole, we look at the food, we look at the, the dress, the wear. As Kimberly said, this year we had Rainforest Fantasy, as our theme, and you saw the beauty of that. You saw the beauty. Persons actually went all out to really, be creative, in terms of their dress and what they came with, at Jazz and Creole Festival. And we are looking forward to World Creole Music Festival. It is part of our Independence anniversary. This year we celebrate our 45th Independence anniversary, and most certainly we will see, the national wear. We will see the jeep. We will see the men in their, independence outfits, as well. So this is something that we encourage at every single event, from a community level all the way up to our signature events.
I suspect you're already visualizing a lot of what you want to see at WCMF, but we'll talk a little bit about that more later. But Kimberly, while we're still on the subject of marketing, I think we've seen a decided push towards marketing the destination more aggressively, and we're seeing that through the increased visibility of the island in various international publications, internationally. What accounts for this? Talk to us about the kind of work that you and your team are doing at Discover Dominica Authority to market and promote the destination, because we are seeing the results, but we probably don't have much of an appreciation for the kind of work that goes into this.
Yes, thanks for that, Dion. First of all, I'm not to toot my own horn, but it's an excellent marketing team, and really in terms of doing the hard work, we are limited in numbers, but we very much stretch. We have stretch goals, and we've made it happen. Not only for saying that from my personal standpoint, but listening to others. Just yesterday, we had someone come by the office, and she said, digitally, over the last year, I can see the improvement in terms of the content and its quality and getting the key messages out. That's important.
Definitely.
So I will say the team, the work being more, the authority being a lot more data driven, looking at what the data is saying to us, using a lot more digital versus traditional media, and really understanding that the traveler has changed and understanding what that journey is like. For example, back in the day, some persons may be very comfortable reading a newspaper and seeing an ad there, but today people want to see reels, they want to see video, they want a little more of an immersive experience. So that has changed, and I think the team has really embraced that well. As I said, small in numbers, but we're making it happen. Also, I think what is important for the increased visibility is we have onboarded a new marketing source rep out of the United States, and they have been excellent in terms of working with us and getting PR in terms of public relations. So you're going to be seeing, you've seen, a lot of accolades with regards for example, Time, which was one of the biggest. We're seeing so many accolades, literally. It's hard to keep up. But now, as you rightfully said, in terms of the fruits of the labor, we are seeing it there. And it's a matter of putting in the work and doing so consistently over time.
Do you have any hard numbers you can share with us in terms of that really demonstrate or illustrate the strides we've made, let's say, in the past 2-3 years since the onset of COVID? Do you have any figures?
Sure. I will say with regards to 2022, we would have, in terms of our stay-over arrivals, it's just about 61,000. And compared to 2021, that would have been just about 14,000 thereabouts. 2019 is our model year, and that would have been close to 89,000 stay-over arrivals. So an excellent target for us in 2022. We surpassed the target of just about 58,000 in 2022. I was extremely proud of that because of the fact that that's a target that was set. We surpassed it. We did the work, and yet again, we have seen even the numbers. I mean, looking at April 2023, compared to April 2019, and we're just under 10 or 12% short for the numbers for 2019. So you are seeing the improvement, even for the festivals. When you look at what would have occurred in 2022, there is a marked increase, just roughly about on average 10% with regards to the arrivals compared to 2019, which is the model year also for events. So you're seeing where the work it's going in. You saw, for example, in 2022, we had strong numbers from the US market because of the fact of that direct flight. And it really made a difference in our numbers. And we love to see, in terms of the connectivity of the island, even further improved, working with our line ministry to get that done, because I must say, it makes a difference. The French West Indies, compared to 2020, those numbers are coming back, not only because of the restrictions, but also because of we doing a lot more work in that market, going out to trade shows, key trade shows, having digital campaigns, having a rep there who is going to allow us to have conversations and education of the trade. So we are working behind the scene, but as you said, you're seeing the results of that work.
Yes, certainly. And the person who spoke to you about your digital presence, your online presence, right on cue. I think we've all noticed I don't want to call it vast improvement, because I think DFC has always done a relatively good job with its social media. But in the past year or so, we've seen a marked difference in your presence online. So commendations on that, of course, and for all the accolades you've received from the international media. You're tuned in to Focus on Government and Development. We're in studio with Mrs. Nathalie Walsh. She's the Festival and Events Manager at Discover Dominica Authority, or as you like to say, DFC, Dominica Festivals Committee. And Miss Kimberly King, who is the Destination Marketing Manager at the Discover Dominica Authority. We've been talking about the recently held Jazz and Creole Festival at Cabritz in Portsmouth. Ongoing efforts to market, promote the destination. Our focus this evening is really to talk about the execution of our major festivals and events, how we can improve, and to hear from the ladies their plans for enhancing the product as we move forward. Of course, our objective is always to get better, to listen to your concerns, your questions, your recommendations, and to implement these as much as we can. So, Nathalie, now that Jazz and Creole it's over, we can switch our attention to the World Creole Music Festival, usually hosted at the end of October, and Carnival upcoming. How are plans going for these activities? And I'm just going on the assumption that you're already deep into the planning. Talk to us about that.
Most certainly, Dion. As I said, earlier, we moved away from Jazz and Creole, festival. Of course, we will be doing our review of Jazz and Creole, but we have already started engaging, a number of key stakeholders. We have started planning for World Creole Music Festival. At Jazz, we announced the dates for WCMF, which is October 27th, 28th, and 29th. Mm-hmm. So we encourage all to book that date. But there's a lot, of planning we need to put in place for World Creole Music Festival. I mean, you think of jazz as just a fraction of what we did,
Mm-hmm.
So I am actually,
oh yeah,
yeah. I am looking forward to World Creole Music Festival. We met with the DFC committee. So we're getting feedback from different groups as well, official and unofficial groups, persons into the music industry, so that we can have a very good mix, of genres for World Creole Music Festival. We are looking this year at having maybe less of the reggae and soca, and I feel safe, Kimberly, to say this evening. but this year, Leon, we would like to have a bit more of the kadas and the zouk and the compa, the richness of the Creole music.
Is that an indication, Nathalie, that you've been listening to a lot of the feedback from the...
That's right. Uh-huh. That's right, Dion. We have gotten over the years a lot of feedback, from not just locals, but persons, within the region and across the world, and we have done a number of surveys as well. And if Wadix was on this program, he would say the very same thing. We really need to have, more of the zouk and, the compa, as part of the event.
Is this as the new festival and events manager, Nathalie, are we hearing some of your philosophy as concerns the WCMF? Are you one of these people who think that we really need to be a little bit more?
I believe so. Because when you think of, the Creole music, you think of, kadas, you think of, zouk, and you think of compa. And it's good to have the reggae and soca and the calypso and everything else, because Creole in the other markets, means it's a different meaning, for like Jamaica. The Creole music is really, the reggae music, whereas our Creole, is slightly different. So we want to ensure that we have a very good mix on all, 3 days of, the 3 nights of pulsating rhythms, in Dominica Dominica to attract, different segments, different audiences, because you have persons who really want that, that richness of if you want to say the long time music, with the kadas and the zouk and so forth. So this year we really want to see how we can, have that mix of different, music across, the 3 days of World Creole Music Festival. As I said, we are engaging with a lot of different, people into the entertainment, industry. We have started discussions with the DFC members. We also have a subcommittee as well, and we started, the discussions with them as well. And we will be presenting our plan to our line ministry very, very soon. So Dominicans can, festival lovers, can actually look out for something, extremely good. As I said, we want to have a world-class music, festival, because we are competing with many, other festivals within the Caribbean. So definitely, Dion, we have to up our game. We certainly have to up our game, as we did for Jazz and Creole, and we want to see, the crowd, maybe even tripling this year. I know we have to look at other factors in terms of flights into Dominica, accommodation, and so forth. But definitely, we would very much like to, improve on our festivals. And as much as we're getting good reviews, Dion, there are areas for improvement. But we have already started, speaking to our VIP and our VVIP partner. We have already started, speaking or dialoguing with, our sponsors, because as you know, sponsorship is very, very important. We really need to get that, partnership with the various businesses in Dominica, not just Dominica, but across the region as well, because I am pretty sure that there are businesses in Guadeloupe and Martinique, St. Lucia, Antigua, that may want to partner with us at World Creole Music Festival, because very often Dominicans go to the French West Indies as well, so we want to partner as much as possible with the businesses across, the other markets.
Before I move on, just to be clear, Nathalie, for those people who may not be so keen on the long time music as you put it on, just to be clear that the mix will still include some reggae and
certainly the mix will include reggae, it will include soca, Afrobeat, zouk, compa, what am I missing, Dion? Calypso. But what we are saying is we have gotten a call for more kadas and more compa and more zouk. So we are going to, look at this, our lineup and ensure that we have a good mix of music, different types of music for all our patrons.
I can relate to what you're saying.
Yes.
One of the concerns that keeps coming up, and that's not only special to the WCMF, but our festivals in general, people complain about the fact that, they feel they're waiting a little bit too long to find out what the lineup is. Are we putting plans in place as DDA, as DFC, as Ministry of Tourism to launch these events a little bit earlier? Because that would be part of our efforts to improve.
Dion, thank you for bringing this up, because, as I said, we have already started planning. You're right. We have already started meeting with the various groups, and you're very right, because a lot of times, even when we start marketing, save the dates, graphics in terms of the campaign from a marketing standpoint, we get a lot of, I would say we get a lot of negative feedback, because persons want to know when are we launching. They want to know who are the artists for this year's World Creole Music Festival, and we recognize that is very, very important to patrons, to festival lovers. They already know the date. They know the date is 27th, 28th, and 29th, right, Kimberly? But they want to know. I was told by Kimberly, the locals know, but the foreigners, they need to know the dates as well. Exactly. So I'm saying, say this evening. It's the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th of October. So book that date right now in your calendar. But certainly, Dion, it's just like you if you're planning to launch a campaign, early planning is very, very important. So we are taking the very same approach, at DFC. So we have started planning for World Creole Music Festival very early. We are in the process of putting a number of elements to showcase World Creole Music Festival, and that's the 23rd edition this year, right? So definitely persons can look forward to seeing an early launch of World Creole Music Festival.
I'm certainly looking forward to that. And Kimberly, she speaks about putting plans in place. What are you putting in place in terms of a marketing perspective to bring the festival to the French market that she speaks of, the Caribbean market that she mentioned? No, that's an inside joke.
No, sorry, no. I'm laughing with Nathalie, sorry. But yes, with regards to the marketing aspect of it, I think we need to understand, as I said, we need to be a little more strategic in the approach because the data is there, and really look at it. There's going to be a point, I know Nathalie is going to be enthusiastic about numbers, but there's going to be a point that wearing a different hat, we need to understand what is the carrying capacity of Dominica and how many persons can be on island visiting all at the same time. And it means in terms of looking at it strategically, even in marketing. So a strategic approach will be, if we know we are going to do more of the Zouk, the Compa, which I think is an ideal part, as Nathalie was saying, that approach, it may mean that we aggressively look at our French West Indies market. When we did, one of these salons just about a month or two ago, I found that a lot of persons were coming up and saying, World Creole Music Festival, when is it? And who's going to be there? And I think we need to be able to cater to that market because we've seen the numbers. It's strong. Also in terms of really piecing together what is going to be that theme message, just as we've done for Jazz and Creole, we need to really sit and think about that because we want to have something, yes, strategically, an approach that is on point to get to those targeted markets, but also to make sure that the experience is embodied in the message that we are putting out.
All right, so I just want to invite, actually the phones have been going off since you guys started. Yes, but I like to follow a certain structure and format. So, but if you want to call and interact with the two ladies, the numbers to call 1-800-327-305-432-9744, 448-3281 or 448-3279. Earlier on, and I think it's important to touch on that. Earlier on, I talked about the festival and events pillar. So we do have these major festivals, WCMF, Carnival, and now the Jazz and Creole, which I think qualifies as one of our major events. But we also have quite a few of these small village festivals. How do these fit into the overall strategy to promote this festival and events pillar? Any of you can take that.
Sure.
Before we do that, let's see if we can
take a call.
Yes. Okay. Caller, you're on to Focus on Government and Development. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir, you're on.
Okay, can I speak?
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I want to commend the organizers of the Dominica Discovery Authority. There's a feedback here, I'm not sure where it's coming from. But I want to commend the Dominica Discovery Authority and the two ladies, of course, Kimberly and Nathalie, who I know very well. I think the jazz was of an excellent product. Can you hear me?
Thank you, caller.
Yes, sir, we're hearing you quite fine.
It was well executed. And I found, in fact, one guy in his bar made in excess of $15,000. But beside that, as a former traffic management officer, the traffic was excellently done. As a matter of fact, at the last Jazz Creole Festival, Jazz on the Caribbean, we did not have all this. It was well organized, it was well planned, and I think Dominicans need to learn to shuttle, to take a shuttle. In Trinidad and the other countries, People take a shuttle, they pack their vehicles. You cannot expect to have a lovely thing like the Jazz Festival and you expect everybody to drive into the car. That cannot happen. So people have to understand we have to learn to take the shuttle. And I thought it was excellently done. And I want to commend the both ladies there on. I know Miss Kimberly is very good, and Nathalie herself has a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I felt this was good. I believe we have to understand that we have to decentralize. And the Cabinet is the ideal home for the Jazz Festival. And I want to commend you highly and continue the good work. Because not only it was a fete, it was promoting tourism. I counted 77 yachts. And the day before had more yachts, and a few had left. But there were 77 yachts and a number of visitors. So we need to harness what we have, congratulate the people when they do well, and stop being negative. That's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ladies. If you don't have any comment on the positive words of this caller, we were talking about the fact that we do have several village festivals which can be incorporated into the festival and events pillar.
Dion, well, as you know, and we said this earlier on, that Dominica has three, signature events. We have the Jazz and Creole, Carnival, the Real Mass, as well as the World Creole Music Festival. Now, throughout the year, as part of our, events calendar, we have a number of other small events within, various communities in Dominica, to include, the popular Con line in Point Michel. We also have the flower show in Girondelle and Eggleston. The Yachting Festival, we just concluded the Yachting Festival in Portsmouth, in March. Die Fest, is coming up in July as well, and we will be supporting, Die Fest. And it is very important to have, the other smaller, activities, because they really promote the uniqueness, of the villages here in Dominica. They also gives, patrons and, foreigners an opportunity, not just to come for the signature events, but to come to the various communities, to know the community. You have communities like, Grand Bay, Point Michel, where, the fishermen can actually promote, their catch, of the day. They can promote, so many different things, the bars, the restaurants, so many vendors really capitalize on, many of the smaller, events. It's an income, for them as well. So we really, as, DFC and DDA under the Ministry of Tourism, we see it very important, not just to, market our three signature events, but also to use this as an opportunity for us to work with the various communities and to help market, the smaller activities within Dominica. After Jazz and Creole on May Day, the Monday, we actually had Ecstasy Band, at Tukari, and many persons, came to Tukari. All the restaurants, all the bars there, they were open, and it really gave, a good opportunity to so many businesses, to operate on that day, to generate some income.
Kimberly, any thoughts on this aspect?
Yeah, I think it lends into the whole community tourism model, because when persons visit the island, they will want to see and do something on the island. I've looked at some research from one of the consultants, I think probably 3 or 4 years ago when I just came in. And one of the key feedback was that there isn't much of a nightlife here in Dominica. There aren't things to do after, let's say, 6 p.m. So having these different village feasts or events within these communities help to create that experience for the visitors, and also help locally persons to be aware of their culture. For example, Nathalie mentioned the Con last year, and I learned about the significance of blowing that conch shell. And I think that is something that I only knew from Marshall's song when he did it, and with the conch-shell man as well. And I think it's pretty something that is very significant to Dominica's culture, and that is something that is also very fascinating. So it's a means of including the communities more, which is important for sustainable tourism, which is important for our marketing, and is very inclusive as well. And I think that's a plus. We may not at sometimes be able to really take over and handle the event completely from a DFC perspective, but we do offer guidance in terms of making sure that they're aware in terms of the logistics, the planning, or the marketing, or making sure that whatever their community messages or their communication is, that goes out as well.
We've not touched on Carnival, and I don't want to leave here. It's always almost up before we talk about Carnival, and I think all listeners might be interested to know that even while we've had Jazz and Creole last weekend and we are looking forward to the WCMF, that work is underway in terms of planning for Carnival, Nathalie, that there's quite a bit of planning going on.
Yes, Dion, indeed. And as you are aware, Dion, we actually, the Ministry of Tourism implemented a task force, and we had several meetings with that task force, and then they further subdivided the task force into various groups. So we are certainly looking at Carnival, and we are looking at all the reviews, all the recommendations that's coming in, from the public as well. We are looking at different ways in terms of how to enhance Dominica's Carnival, how to really strengthen, the traditional aspect of Dominica's Carnival, because more and more we are getting, feedback from the public that we are losing, our tradition. We are losing, the different, traditional groups on the road during Carnival. So we have to come up with a strategic plan as to how we are going to, intensify, our Carnival into Dominica. How are we going to have more of, the traditional groups, the Sensei, the Black Devils, the Lapo Cabwits, so we really want to see in 2024, a larger, contingent of the traditional groups on the streets of Roseau, on the streets of Portsmouth, on the streets of Granby. But when we launch on that day, we really need to bring it all together. We have to connect the dots, Dominicans. We have to connect that dot and make our opening of Carnival the biggest ever in 2024. And, we had a lot of talk about changing the date of Carnival. So I'm just going to leave this here. I'm not going to comment further on it, Dion, but there are a lot of different elements of Carnival that's under review by the task force and further the subcommittees. And we will definitely come up with a very robust an innovative plan with, changes. Of course, we have to, move with the change, and we have to try to make, our Carnival bigger and better, because we are competing with so many other Caribbean islands. But we have to showcase what is unique to Dominica, and we have to sell that. We have to market what is really pure to Dominica, our culture, and we know what it is. So we just need to package it and sell it, and sell it right.
That's one of my favorite words when it comes to festivals and events, packaging. Yes. I think that's important. Kimberly, she speaks about competition, which you also mentioned earlier on. Coming out of Trinidad, what are your thoughts on Dominica's Carnival, how we can continue to enhance the product?
That's a great question. So I decided to be a part of Masalawi so that I could really experience it as someone just on the road, feeling the vibe and the different elements of it. And I definitely love the bouillon music. I think persons love that. It's uniquely Dominican, which is important. I think in terms of the areas of improvement in making sure that we go the distance, let's not have gaps on the road. Constantly, there must always be something to do. We brought in an influencer from St. Martin, And at some point, she wanted to see a lot more of the traditional aspect, because we really touted that message in the marketing, looking at Dominica as the real mass. You're not going to get that probably outside of Guadeloupe. You're not really going to get that so much in the Caribbean, a little bit in Grenada for the jab mass, but really Dominica is something uniquely different. So we need to see more of that traditional aspect. There needs to be a place. Definitely. There needs to be continuity. That's important. And one of the second things I believe that needs to happen is making sure that we understand there needs to be quality. Your visitor experience, your costumes, how it's made, the sort of food that you receive, the road management, the music, your drinks. Not that I'm trying to say anything promote Trinidad, but one of the best experiences for Trinidad is the ability to have that customer service on the road, have that band keep moving on the road, have that music where persons at 8 p.m. they just don't want to stop because the music is still going. The experience is one that's tuning. So I would say in terms of looking at the traditional aspect, making sure there's continuity, making sure that the stakeholders, whether it be the mass bands, they understand in terms of what it means to give quality in costume making. That means we need capacity building in those areas, but also the music. The music is so amazing. Not only the bouillon, but how do you make sure that the music remains authentic to what Dominica is trying to sell?
Mm-hmm. So, ladies, we've exhausted our time. Guess we could talk about Carnival and WCMF for maybe 2 hours.
Yes.
It's really interesting if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the opportunity to give some closing remarks, talk to our listeners about how they can become more invested in the events and assist the DFC DDA to make successes or greater successes of our World Creole Music Festival or Carnival, and probably appeal to your sponsors, your potential partners, that kind of thing. Nathalie.
Most certainly, Dion. This is an opportunity for Dominicans to really support, our signature events. And how can you support the events? It is very simple. You are already an ambassador of Dominica. Look at the positive and promote that, on social media. Invite your friends, invite your relatives to Dominica. As I said, we have 3 signature events, plus we have the smaller events within the communities. When you come to Dominica, it's not only for the festivals, but come and visit, the destination. Come after Carnival, after World Creole Fest, there are so many places to go. You can go to the Sulphur Springs, you can go to the waterfalls. There's so many things to do in Dominica. If you want to go chill, at a bar and have some bushram.
It's okay, you can say bushram.
You can do so. So we really just want to encourage persons to help us promote the events. World Creole Fest is on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. This is the opportunity to sell Dominica, to sell the festivals, and let us make this year be, a remarkable year. We started already with jazz and Creole. Why not World Creole Music Festival? We have heard your cry. We're going to do our best, to implement some of, the ideas, some of the initiatives you'd like to see for World Creole Music Festival. But we really need your support to promote what is, ours. What is Dominica, right? Because Dominica is a very unique, island, very, very unique, and we have a lot to sell, right? We have a lot to sell to, foreigners who have seen only skyscrapers. And we are saying to come to the nature island, Dominica, and be part, of the festivals and so many other activities here in Dominica.
Kimberly, final words?
I'll say that you've seen the potential of Dominica from our marketing efforts, from our festival efforts, from our product efforts. We are seeing the results consistently. That means that we need to have ambassadors. And for the launch of the new logo, that would have been 2022, February. One of the things that I said is that you need to own this, and owning this as a Dominican means that you will become an ambassador for Dominica. That's important, especially when you have visitors on island. It really makes a difference. There's a lot to be learned. Let's ensure that there's constructive criticism. But in terms of final words, we will consistently do our best. We are looking at your input, and we are so happy that you are not going to be telling persons only of the events, but the amazing assets of Dominica, which it's nature, it's adventure, it's aqua, etc. Thanks so much. That's it.
Thank you so much, Kimberly and Nathalie. I really like the passion that I heard from both of you about marketing the product, promoting the product. And Nathalie, I look forward to certainly the changes, if you will, that you will bring to the management of these events. Congratulations again to both of you for a successful execution of Jazz and Creole, and we're looking forward to WCMF. I can't wait, I can tell you that.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you.
You've been tuned in to Focus on Government and Development, our Thursday program right here on DBS Radio and Cairo FM. We're also live on social media. We invite you to join us again when we speak to another issue of national interest, of national importance. This is your program. It was designed with you in mind to keep you informed about the work that this government is doing on your behalf. My name is Dion Deron Smith. I bid you a good evening. Your government is working for you. Find out how every Thursday on Focus on Government and Development. We'll explore the programs, plans, and policies in place to improve your lives. Hear from the policymakers and call in with your questions and comments. Focus on Government and Development, Thursdays 8 to 9 p.m. on DB.